friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw Countout. It's Saturday. That means it's Countout Day, Larson. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
And, of course, we're on the road.
What are you pointing at? Stop pointing.
Road to WrestleMania. There's a WrestleMania sign over there.
Sign. Stop pointing.
I'm pointing at Brock Lesnar's high school picture. Or
It's
college.
not a WrestleMania sign.
It's college picture.
College picture, not a WrestleMania sign.
Anyways, we're on the road to WrestleMania, Larson. Which, of course, means we're going to do a bunch of countouts about WrestleMania.
Correct.
Because lazy. That's why.
No, topical.
Topical. I'm sorry, topical. That's what I meant. We should do top 10 Simon Gotch Barry's Enzo Amore videos. Does that show up in all of your recommendations?
It showed up a lot.
It shows up everywhere. I was literally YouTubing. I was trying to YouTube a leak under my toilet.
I saw that. I saw what you put on Twitter, yeah.
And it was boom, 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 boom. And then
There
he's
it is.
burying Enzo Amore again.
There it is.
What? I've already watched the video.
Maybe they think after getting frustrated, try to fix that toilet leak, you want some levity in your life.
Maybe Simon Gotch knows something about plumbing.
That's the possibility.
He knows something about 10 for the win.
Next time we see him, we should ask him.
I'm going to ask him next time and say, hey, what is with you always in my recommendations burying Enzo Amore?
Yeah.
How much further can you bury him?
Apparently plenty.
All of it.
Yes. Anyways, we're not here to talk about toilet leaks.
Or Simon Gotch burying Enzo Amore.
Or Simon Gotch. We're here to talk about WrestleMania. And much like last week, we're here to talk about the worst of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
In this case, the worst matches of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
There's been some really good WrestleMania matches. There's been a lot of turds.
And here's the thing. Like, yeah, you can dive into the deep cuts of like early Mania maybe or mid-aughts.
But if you're being honest with yourself about early days of WrestleMania, most of the wrestling wasn't very good anyways.
Right, exactly. So we're not really looking at matches that weren't meant to have some sort of expectations behind them. Many of the WrestleMania matches, really, there's not a lot of expectation behind it. So it's like it's fine. You're a turd, whatever. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at matches that probably, for one reason or other, should have been a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
and they were just turds.
Yeah,
they were absolute turds.
So it's more of an expectations game. You see on paper. I'll throw one of the matches out here. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. Usually ingredients there for something good.
Well, and interesting.
Not only does it disappoint, it disappoints greatly.
Yeah.
That match, and we'll speak about it more in a little bit. That match almost ruined that whole WrestleMania for me.
Right, exactly. So let's just dive into it.
Please.
Here we go. Your top 10 worst WrestleMania matches. Number 10. Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar.
The build-up to this match wasn't actually terrible because it was Ambrose going to various hardcore legends, Mick Foley, Terry Funk, getting advice, and perhaps more importantly, weapons.
Because it was a street fight.
It was a street fight to use against Brock Lesnar. And remember that one, the point and the build-up to it is Ambrose rolls down the ring on an episode of Raw with like a red wagon full of weapons.
Yeah.
With his logo
Radio
on it.
flyer, right?
Yeah, with his logo on it.
Yeah.
And like the implication there is like, okay, we're going to get a really good, not CZW level street fight, but, like a good Attitude Era street fight. And then the match happened, and then that didn't happen.
So this was at WrestleMania 32, which was a bad WrestleMania.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It was coming off of, I think 31 was pretty good. We were there.
Yeah, WrestleMania 31 was fun.
I think that's well known as being, 30 is really good. 31 was pretty good.
Yeah.
Had a killer ending.
Yeah. 32 main event, Triple H, Roman Reigns, not a good match.
That's not, that could have made this because, man, that was slow. They like sort of re-killed Roman Reigns with that, I feel. However, this Dean Ambrose, Brock Lesnar one. So, number one, first and foremost, Brock Lesnar broke the cardinal rule of street fights. He was not wearing jeans.
He was not wearing jeans. Dean, of course, he always wears jeans, but he came prepared for street fight in jeans. Brock just wore his normal gear.
I don't know if Brock, I don't know, even in like regular pictures of him, I don't know if you've ever seen him in jeans. He usually wears like sweats.
Wasn't he wearing jeans when he went to that WB 2K event? He had jeans.
And a blazer.
And a blazer on.
Yeah, and a shirt.
So there you go.
I don't know. I didn't look at him. I didn't want to risk making eye contact.
Pretty sure he had jeans on. Anyways.
All them other dudes that were interviewing him, ooh, I do not.
No, I made eye contact with him once from across.
Scary.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
He's a huge individual.
It's
Anyways.
like that time we saw Suge Knight. And then we were like, we got to go this way.
Yeah.
He was on the floor of E3.
Yeah.
Ooh, he might have asked me for the rights to my hit song.
Well, luckily for you, you have no hit songs. No royalties to fork over to Suge Knight. Anyways, the Lesnar's greater transgression, not wearing jeans, it was not giving a shit.
Yeah, it's almost, you can almost see the, well,
No, there was no almost in the build to this. Brock Lesnar obviously gave 0 Fs about this program.
Well, I was going to say,
he was not invested in it whatsoever.
You could almost see the resentment on his face, and usually you can see that, but you could. It was like he was looking at Dean and thinking, "Well, I'm not going to do it. I think Brock just doesn't like deathmatch guys. I think that's the thing, and I think Dean, and we'll get to the quotes here in a bit, but he sort of illustrated the point. It put a bigger microscope on this when he went on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. On that time it was on the network, and he talked about this match. And then when you go back and you watch the match, which I did last night, Brock takes a bit of a beating with kendo sticks.
Yeah, but then he grabs a kendo stick and he just breaks it in half.
Yeah. He does. I think he goes back and he uses it on Dean. I think that the most telling thing for me was at the very end of the match. Brock does the F5, I think, on a bunch of chairs.
Yeah, that's the finish,
to Dean. And then he rolls out, and, he's got some welts on him. He's hurting. And he just picks up the fire extinguisher that hadn't been used during the match. And he just sort of starts spraying it up in the general vicinity, like from the floor towards where Little Nate and Dean are. And then he just sort of tosses it down. And he just has this look like, well, that's not what I didn't want to do any of that.
Yeah. Contemptuous of the whole prospect.
Kind of.
The whole deal, yes.
So then Dean went on Steve Austin's podcast like a year later, or less than a year later. And Ambrose said this about that match. When asked, he said, "I went to the ring that night pretty pissed off, but then I really started to enjoy. As I walked to the ring, I had no idea what was going to happen. Went out there with not much of a plan, so to speak."
No, you got to do this in Dean Ambrose voice.
Oh, sorry. And then Austin says, "What were you pissed off about?" I felt like I was pulling teeth to turn that match into something epic and so forth. And so forth.
Yeah.
"You're an MMA fan just like I am. Was it a disconnect in styles artistically in the ring?" Ambrose says, "Artistically, Brock didn't want to do anything. If we're going to be perfectly honest, Brock's going to Brock. He's all about Brock. I had a vision for that match to be the craziest thing imaginable. You know what I mean? I was trying to pitch everything to everybody and had every idea. I put so much effort in it, so much work in it, and other people did too, and I was met with laziness. I kept thinking at the end of the day, once we get in the ring, it's going to be okay. We'll figure it out once we get in the ring." We went out there, whacked each other with weapons. I got suplexed a bunch of times.
Pretty good. Good job.
Thanks. I don't know.
It's a grade A performance right there.
It really was. My voice is kind of messed up right now.
It actually worked to your favor in this circumstance.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. On the flip side of this, I'm curious to know what Brock's point of view is. It probably is just, well, I didn't want to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably that. But here's the thing. We've seen AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, and Finn Balor, and they're all a certain type of wrestler, which is not Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And then I have no doubt that the Seth match is going to be killer.
Yeah.
We've seen, granted, I think Brock, at 31, Brock was having a good match with Roman. Mm-hmm. I just think they haven't been able to have a good match because of the way that it's been booked, because of the way it's been produced.
Yeah, usually it's just all like infinite finishers and
But
stuff
I think
like that.
Brock likes Roman.
Yeah.
Obviously, Brock loves Taker.
Yeah.
There's something about Dean, and maybe there was a mix, not artistically or stylistically, but personality-wise.
Could be.
It could be the way Dean approached Brock, and maybe there was something off-putting about it.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But it was obvious, regardless of the reasons. So I'm not going to lay it all on Brock, because he's had good matches with other opponents that we really like.
Yeah.
So I won't put it all on him. Regardless of the reasons, it was a boring match because it was obvious that one guy didn't want to do one thing and the other guy wanted to do another thing.
And we'll talk later on when Brock does not want to be involved in a match.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't
What
like
happens?
it.
Yeah.
And the match suffers because of it.
Yeah. But you can kind of like the general vibe of him was, well, I'm taking all these kendo sticks. This is annoying. I want out of here.
Yeah.
Which is not a good match.
No.
Anyways.
No, not at all.
Moving on. Number 10.
No, 9.
9. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton.
We were there for this one, WrestleMania 33.
Yeah.
This was laughably bad.
This was...
We've talked about this match endlessly, and because I think it left such an impact on us and how disappointing it was. So we don't need to rehash the whole story leading up to it. But essentially, Orton turns on Wyatt, burns down the compound. In the
it was
process,
very story-ish.
Yeah,
It was very like they were trying to write a TV show.
Yeah, in the process, of trying to do something with a now burned down compound. Wyatt gains, as he puts it, satanic powers.
Yeah.
So he's walking into this match seemingly with powers of Satan in his very bones.
Yeah.
And how do these powers manifest themselves in the ring? Projections of bugs.
Yeah. It was very silly.
And if that wasn't enough, how ridiculous it was, how laughable it was, people were laughing.
Yeah.
Take that out of the equation, the match was still a turd.
Mm-hmm.
It was like there was basically the only story beats they had planned for this match was the projections. They had nothing else planned in terms of progressing the actual in-ring story. Because of that, it was just like a match. It would have been a subpar SmackDown match.
I feel like that House of Horrors match that sort of culminated.
Had a heck of a lot more creativity to it, I'll tell you that much.
It did. Like, say what you will about it. I know the crowd. Here's the thing. Especially at WrestleMania, you're sitting there, especially this WrestleMania. This WrestleMania literally put me off going to WrestleManias forever. And then I read a thing this morning that said this WrestleMania the one coming up might be the longest. Like, it's going to,
it could have like 15 matches.
I read 17. That was the thing. It was like 17 matches.
Ridiculous. It's too many.
So, like, the live crowd, we're already seeing plenty of live wrestling. It's okay then to throw to a big screen and let us watch a House of Horrors match at WrestleMania as opposed to like a month later whenever it happened.
Yeah, payback.
And so I think that would have been a much better thing to do. This, I don't know who thought, listen, this is what we're going to do. Every 5 minutes, we're going to project some bugs on the thing. We'll have a camera up top. It'll be very dynamic. It'll be very interesting. Like, when you sit down and like visualize how that's going to play out, it's just boring.
You know what it is.
It's just boring.
Someone watched that tunnel sequence from Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And thought, hey, they just project a bunch of weird things down that tunnel when
Yeah.
it gets creepy and stuff. Let's just do that.
Yeah, which is fine. And there's I think there's a place for that.
There is a place for that, but you need Gene Wilder singing the song to tie it all together.
That would be ideal. However, even barring that, if you look at that sequence, the intensity of the projections, including a chicken getting its head cut off, grow in intensity, and the music gets more. So you could have maybe done something like this where, I don't know, the projections aren't just and then they leave, and then they leave. If you're doing something that is used to heighten the tension and it builds in intensity,
There's no build.
That's fine.
No build.
But it was not.
There was no build.
There was zero build.
No build.
It was like fundamental wrestling moves and then projection. Go back to fundamental. Like, even the wrestling was very basic.
It was very basic.
It was
boring.
very basic.
Boring.
How many did it only take one RKO at the end? That's terrible. That's terrible. And that's for the WWE Championship.
Yep.
That's terrible.
It was a bad match. Really bad. Moving on, Steve.
Number 8.
8.
Bossman versus Taker.
Hell in a Cell, WrestleMania 15. I remember watching this at my
That's right.
parents' house and thinking at the time, like, Undertaker can move really well. Bossman is noted for being one of the more agile big men in wrestling history. Why are they just standing around brawling the whole time? This is boring.
Yeah, it was boring.
It is really boring.
Younger you was correct.
And you think about all the great matches that have taken place in Hell in a Cell.
This was months. This was Foley going through the cell.
It was the previous May.
Okay, so it was 9 months.
It's about a year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Man. Oh man.
So
That was in May. Why do I associate
May or
that
June.
Why do I associate that with November? It's not November.
No,
Was
Hell
it
in
Survivor
King. It
Series?
was King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
It's either
okay.
May or June. And then, so they didn't really use the cell at all until the end when the Undertaker hanged the Bossman.
Late June, so
Late
it's
June.
9 months
All right.
later.
Hanged Bossman
Yeah.
from the cell, and they lift the cell up a little bit, and you get Bossman there hanging.
Yeah, it was actually
It's horrendous.
But there was some inadvertent comedy. Number one, it's funny because I was looking at some message boards last night because wrestling message boards are amazing.
It's an interesting scene, man.
It definitely is. But you get a lot of different thoughts and opinions about certain
Yes.
matches. And there was this one, somebody posed the question on one of those wrestling boards. Bossman versus Taker, should this have been the match? It's funny because in the lead-up video, there really was no reason why it's Bossman as opposed to any number of other people involved with the corporation. Because this was the Undertaker sending a message to the corporation. When was the reveal? When was the It Was Me reveal?
Oh, I don't recall.
Because, man, how pissed off is Bossman now when it's like, wait a second, I was part of the faction that was going to align with this faction anyways? well, I just got murdered. They hung me.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody speculated that the only reason why it was Bossman is because his ring attire was such that you could hide the thing.
Yeah, the harness. Yeah,
the harness. Yeah,
so he can be safely hung.
The greatest thing about that match, though, well, number one, there was a funny bit where Bossman handcuffed Undertaker to the cage, which makes sense because he's boss. That was actually some good logic right there.
Yeah.
He's got all of his weapons at his disposal.
Yeah.
And Undertaker just very gingerly starts like trying to kick at him, even though he's like well out of reach. It's so stupid. But the funniest bit, and I'll show you right now.
Make sure your volume's off.
It is.
If you're gonna.
The funniest bit about this is when the Brood descend to attach to lower the noose.
Yeah.
And they come down on wires. Okay, so there's a 3 count, and then we're gonna watch this live because I don't think you've seen this. I
probably haven't seen it since it originally aired.
Right. Oh, it's probably closer to over here.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so yeah, so here we go.
Lights go out.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Yeah, they hung him, but watch what happens to the Brood. They start ascending. Okay, so. Here we go. I'll just rewind a little bit. If you watch closely, once Undertaker has the harness locked in and the noose on, like you see Gangrel, he's kind of elevating, and Edge is just...
He's just suspended up there.
Just suspended, and he's doing this. Like he's doing the flying motion, but he's just chilling there.
He's got to be nervous as all hell,
in
man.
midair. Well, that's the funny thing is that you have to think there was a production meeting where they told the Brood, here's what you're going to do at the end of this match. You're going to rappel on wires, lower a noose down, and then we're going to bring you back up.
Say what?
Yeah, Gangrel's probably like, I'm a wrestler, not a stuntman. That's not my job.
Still doing that.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Edge says, you think you know me.
You think you know me.
That's not really what I'm into, man. You think you know me.
It's really not my thing. You think you know me, but you really don't because it's not my thing. I don't want to do that.
That's probably go along with whatever Edge it says.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good idea, Adam. But yeah, he's just like this. What the hell? He's probably cracking up there. He's like this.
Well, I think it's probably
crapping himself.
Yeah, crapping himself. Then in hindsight, he can crack up about it.
Man, that is terrible.
Terrible match.
Number 7. Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice.
Woo-wee.
WrestleMania 8.
Oh, man. Sid is the best wrestler of all time. Sorry, the worst wrestler of all time.
Worst.
Wildly entertaining. What's great about this match is they do the same exact sequence twice.
Yeah.
They open the match. Sid attacks Hogan before the bell. Irish whip against the ropes. For some reason, Sid decides to hit the mat to allow Hogan to jump over him.
Yeah.
He gets up. Hogan clocks him, knocks out of the ring. So there's a little gaga around the ring for a bit. Bell rings. Sid gets back in. They do the same exact sequence.
Same thing.
The same exact thing. It's like a match two rookies put on and put together in the early days of training to make sure they get the fundamentals right.
Like when I watch, I follow Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy on Instagram, and they always post really, really awesome training videos, and it's just fundamentals of wrestling.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll spotlight some rookie, and or they'll spotlight 2 rookies, who are still learning, and that looked like that.
Yes.
It looked like that, But
Yes.
Santino Brothers does it better than Hogan and Sid did.
I know.
So there's a lot to unpack here. Number 1, WrestleMania 8. This was supposed to be. This was advertised during the show as Hogan's retirement match. This was supposed to be his last match, and they did this shoot-style interview prior to the match. And Hogan is totally mellow. There's no, and they're sitting. It's a sit-down set.
It's a shoot voice, right?
It's a shoot voice. Yeah, he's like, man, I think about it, and I think about going out there and all this kind of stuff. And so it's a bit weird. And then they do a promo with Sid, and he's in full Sid.
Oh, absolutely.
Like face just in the camera.
Oh, that's great.
And he's just so intense. But neither man, like he broke more of a sweat during that promo than he did during this match because there was no running besides the 2 sequences with the running the ropes.
There was a headlock. There was a nerve hold.
Oh, man, it was all
We got a choke slam from Sid and a power bomb, but Hogan hulked out of the power bomb pin.
Yeah.
Hit a boot, power or body slam, and a leg drop.
Yeah.
And then, apparently Papa Shango was supposed to come out and break up the pin, cause a DQ there. So Sid had to kick out of the Hogan leg drop. Fast forward about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Papa Shango finally makes his way down the
Now,
ring.
we had read, that was something that we had sort of read and sort of kept the assumption going. Is it, given how late Papa Shango ran out there, and I used run, I don't know, he had to have pulled something backstage.
Yeah, he wasn't running at all.
Because it was like an old man saunter.
He was ambulating.
And, I mean, because Papa Shango, that was Charles Wright, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could totally move when he was Godfather and Common, all that. Yeah. So he was fine. Maybe he was just in character. He's supposed to be more of like a zombie guy.
Yeah.
But he was ambling out there like a minute after. But when the kick out happened, like, so we had heard that Papa Shango was supposed to run out and
break up the pinfall.
Yeah. He didn't come out till like a minute later.
Yeah, it took a while.
It was a long time later. But Harvey Whippleman was out there.
I mean, if the original plan was for Papa Shango to break up that pinfall, cause DQ there, it's actually kind of impressive they orchestrated everything to cause a DQ anyways. Mm-hmm. Kind of. So Sid kicks out with authority.
Yeah.
And immediately Harvey Whippleman's on the apron. Hogan goes over, throws him in the ring. That actually causes the DQ.
Here's what I think probably... I think whoever said the Papa Shango thing probably got it wrong.
Maybe.
Here's what my speculation is. Hogan drops the leg. Whippleman gets up on the apron right as he does that. That distracts the ref who comes over, has to deal with Whippleman while Hogan has the pin and the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
There's no count. Then maybe when the ref goes over and counts. So it might have either been on Harvey, it could have been on the ref, it could have been them doing it too early.
Who knows?
But I would be surprised if it was Papa Shango because we had read that or heard in an interview somewhere and assumed that was the case. It was like a minute, maybe two.
It's a long time before Papa Shango comes
and it's
out.
a long ramp. So the idea that he can run out there and hit the ring right as that 2 count's going to happen, people were not athletic enough to do that back then. So
that needed to be a circumstance where he's hiding under the ring.
Right, exactly. So there was some, but yeah, you ended up with Sid kicking out of a Hogan leg drop, which is pretty impressive.
Which hadn't happened at that point.
Like kayfabe-wise, Sid is like, his power levels go up huge.
Yeah, but then there's the rest of his career.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Papa Shango comes out. They start beating up on Hogan. Who makes the save? Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, that's right. This was all orchestrated to get Warrior back. That's right.
And have him, I guess, replace Hogan as top guy.
After Warrior it was only like months earlier, I think, that Warrior had been fired for his monetary demands.
The SummerSlam incident?
Yeah.
The previous August then.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, previous August. And, but they brought him back because Vince was worried that Hogan was retiring, and he brought back Warrior because he thought he could make money off him.
That's interesting, according to Pritchard, that Sid was going to be groomed to be the next top babyface. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to be a baby, though. He wanted to be a heel.
Oh, really? Yep. That's interesting.
He didn't like being a babyface. He wanted to be a heel.
Huh.
So he could have been top guy in WWE.
That's interesting.
Making tons of money.
I wonder if to him being a heel season. Yeah. I wonder if to him being a heel, well, there could be two things. I wonder if being a heel is just like easier for him because he's just all he has to do is be intense.
Could be.
Whereas when he smiles, number one, whenever I've seen him in interviews and on was it Big Brother?
Yeah.
He seems like a very pleasant guy.
Yeah.
He seems like a pretty pleasant guy. Like he seems like a softball player.
Yeah.
Like a beer league guy.
Well, also I was going to say maybe as a heel, if you're top babyface in WWE,
do media.
You got to do media, but no, you got to be around all the time.
Yeah.
You're a heel. You can pop in and out when you want to, I guess, in his mind. You can go play softball.
In his mind, exactly.
You take some summer months off to go hit some softballs and come back, and hey, I'm back. I'm a heel.
Yeah. And then the Warrior thing didn't last long at all because of steroids. Mm-hmm. And then they brought him back again.
Well, then
he took some time off, or he went like on the independent circuit. He did matches elsewhere and then came back at 12 for that Triple H match. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years after that, we got Halloween Havoc.
Oh dear,
1998. Anyways, moving on.
Terrible.
Moving on. But yeah, this Hogan Sid match is a joke. Like, could you the end of the friggin' DQ? They ended Mania with a DQ.
I know.
That's sort of the bigger thing here.
I know. But I guess and probably in Vince's mind, well, Warrior's coming out to do a run-in. That'll get the crowd excited and send them home happy.
The theme.
Look, Warrior's back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Anyways, I'm moving on. Number 6. Butterbean versus Bart Gunn.
So this was like a supplemental match to Brawl for All. Bart Gunn had won it.
Yeah, you win Brawl for All, you get to be on the big stage with Butterbean.
Yeah, I know.
It was your prize for winning.
Noted tough man Butterbean.
For winning shoot matches against the likes of JBL, Dr. Death, and I don't know.
Yeah, it is in a lot of ways a perfect encapsulation of Brawl for All in a lot of ways.
Watch careers be destroyed in front of your eyes.
But although Bart Gunn took the momentum of winning Brawl for All, went to Japan and had a nice career for himself.
Yeah. But could you imagine if he beat Butterbean here?
Oh, man. He'd be a huge star.
He'd probably be in line for a WWE title
Problem
shot.
is, he had zero chance of ever beating Butterbean.
Yeah, that was never going to happen.
And if you watch this fight,
you see that.
The evidence of that is clear as day.
We watched this together the other day.
We watched it like 4 times, the knockout especially.
Well, they replayed this shit out of it.
I know.
And the funny thing that you can see is, number one, it was, hats off to Bart Gunn for getting through Brawl for All and sort of proving the world, because like you said, he was able to take the momentum from that into Japan and have a really stellar career. Mm-hmm. And he could have been probably a bigger deal in WWE if it wasn't for this Butterbean match. But yeah, he's sort of the guy least likely,
Well, they wanted Dr. Death to win it, and they brought him the company to win it to set him up as a heel foil for Stone Cold in a title program.
God, to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Here's the thing: we're going to bring in Dr. Death
to win a shoot fight tournament.
Okay, so hold on a second. There's a lot of some of these guys are Golden Gloves guys. Some of these guys might be able to beat him, right? Like this is a shoot, like a real fight, Yeah, real fight. So we're not going to rig it. You just assume that he's going to come in here.
Yeah,
and
he's
annihilate.
real tough. He hasn't been pinned in the States in like a decade. Yeah, BC, that's a shoot. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, hey, bro. Listen, bro.
So, anyways, Bart Gunn wins this whole thing, and his reward is
clown show
is getting knocked out by Butterbean.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there people speculating that this was actually punishment for Bart Gunn actually winning a shoot fight tournament?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Instead of Dr. Death. Oh, how dare you knock out Dr. Death in a shoot fight tournament?
Yeah.
So here is your punishment. You get knocked out by Butterbean.
Well, it was probably, it might not have been punishment, maybe. It might have been...
Let's test your metal, kid.
Yeah, you think you're a big shot, huh? All right, well, let's see.
Enter Butterbean.
Yeah. Hey, what could go wrong? Look, it's a win-win. There's a no-lose scenario here. Either Butterbean annihilates him, and we're not going to do anything with him anyways, or Bart Gunn beats Butterbean, and we made a star.
Yeah, I guess so.
Either way, it's a win-win for the WWE.
Not so much for Bart Gunn, though.
Scenario 1 happened. He got annihilated.
Yeah.
And you could see, it's funny because I noted this when they were doing their standoff before the match when we were watching it, and I was like, man, Bart Gunn is a chiseled dude.
Yeah,
his face, he looks like one of them cigarette ads, back in the 80s, like a Marlboro guy.
Marlboro man.
Yeah. So he's in there, and then he said, yeah, but look at his eyes. He looks scared.
Yeah.
And he did. He totally
Butterbean did not look scared at all.
No, he was like, this is going to be the...
He's like calculating in his mind how much money he's going to make per second of the fight.
Yeah, and he's out there, and it's like if I went out on the court with a bunch of 10-year-olds with basketball. I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to annihilate these kids. Just murder them. I mean, these days I'd probably throw my back out, but 10 years ago I could have annihilated some 10-year-olds. Did you have was there any desire yesterday during your kids' March Madness tournament to go out there and annihilate some kids?
No, but
between
games, I guess, there was an adult out there that they had to kind of referee a bit just to make sure people were inbounding and stuff. Yeah. And he was out there, and there's a kid shooting around. I just want to go out there and shoot around.
Yeah, of course.
That's really it.
Yeah.
Because they had...
balled up that ref, man.
He was tall, man.
Oh,
he was
man.
6'5".
Be embarrassed in front of your kid. That'd suck. Don't do that.
No,
that's not a fight you want. Just like Bart Gunn probably didn't want this Butterbean fight.
Nope.
So yeah, he gets knocked down once, moments into the match. And he planks. He kind of planks.
Yeah.
He planks.
And then the ref is Vinny Panzienza.
Yeah,
I believe is his name. He gets him up, checks his hands, like, you can still fight? Because you're gonna make sure there's weight behind the hands so you can keep the hands up. He lets the fight continue. A body shot from Butterbean. Boom! Knockout blow.
It looked bad. Like that head
His head was like on the same plane as his shoulders.
Yeah. That looks so nice.
bad.
It was very satisfying. It's probably very satisfying for Butterbean. He's like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah, Bart Gunn falls over like a
a sack of potatoes.
Just out.
And they go and
The
grab
trainers on, make sure.
They're like, oh my God, are you alive?
He's
We're going to
all
have
right,
our first death at WrestleMania.
Butterbean celebrates.
I really, talk about a fly on the wall. How great would it have been to see Vince's live reaction to that? Oh,
He's probably laughing.
It probably was. That was amazing, though.
Vince Russo back there. Bro.
Oh, he got annihilated, bro. Anyways, moving on. Number 5. Vince McMahon versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 26.
There's two aspects of this. First of all, considering everything Bret had gone through physically just a few years prior, his effort in this is very commendable.
Yeah.
He was moving around pretty well following his stroke. A few years back, was it 2002?
2002, yeah.
Yeah, so this is several years later. But granted, he wasn't the Bret Hart of the mid-'90s, but he was moving around pretty darn well for a guy who had a stroke a few years prior.
I guess it's kind of interesting. Like, Bret Hart seems like a very complex individual. Mm-hmm. The guy who had been screwed over a couple times by the WWE, gone to the WCW, had his brother die in an accident in WWF while he was gone. It's kind of surprising that Bret Hart would then participate in something like this, which is just an attraction. The Bret Hart who took his wrestling very seriously.
Yeah, took his character very, very seriously.
Would do something like this. But it's obvious the dude, after his stroke, which, he was on the precipice of death, obviously, found some perspective. And that's what's most interesting about this, because it is a terrible wrestling match.
Yeah,
There
it's
is
not
not
good.
wrestling. He could not take any bumps.
Yeah.
He had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy that said, you are super limited with what you're allowed to do out there on TV. And, so he didn't run the ropes most of the time, and he was moving fine. But like when he's like grabbing the rope, sometimes it's like, is he doing that for balance or just to sort of?
Yeah.
I don't know, because he's holding onto the ropes a lot.
Generally, like the story of this match was that Vince had bought off the Hart family to act as lumberjacks for the match, give him an advantage, so Vince could once again screw over Bret. Bret grabs a mic and says, "Y'all got your cash up front, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing I learned, double cross." So they're all still aligned. The Hart family is unified. And so what would happen is Bret would get a little offense off. Vince would either roll out of the ring or Bret would toss him out. And then it would be Tyson Kidd and Davey Boy Smith Jr. Doing most of the attacking, and Natalia.
Yeah.
They were actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this match. Beating up Vince on the outside of the ring, ringside, on the mats. They'd put Vince back in. Bret would work up Vince over a little bit more, repeat. At one point, Vince crawls over the ring, grabs a crowbar. Hart family ringside is all, whoa, we don't mess with you now. Vince gets back in, tries to hit Bret. He avoids, punches Vince, and then Vince loses the crowbar immediately.
Yeah.
So Bret Hart utilizes crowbar, and I believe a chair too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Before finally submitting Vince via sharpshooter.
Yeah. And then he had a couple more little, deals with the WWF.
He was US champion at one time.
He beat Miz for the United States Championship, which he then vacated because he was made general manager. He had a tag team match at SummerSlam, I think, with Cena against the Nexus or something. I forget what it was. So he did a couple more things, but it was, the one thing that Bret Hart can claim properly is that he's one of the best technical wrestlers that wrestling has ever seen. And to be in a match that was literally anything but was just kind of, it's kind of sad.
Well, I think the creative of the match to protect Bret.
Yeah.
Didn't do anybody any favors. I think that was really, in my mind, where it suffered most was.
But how do you book a match with a guy who can't take a bump?
Well, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes, first of all.
Oh, no, it's completely true.
It's way too long. Especially once, I felt like it could have been something as simple as you keep the double cross thing, even though it's ridiculous. Vince gets tossed out of the. I mean, it's telling that the crowd was not into the match at all. Everybody was sitting on their hands
because
there was no excitement.
Yeah, it was just kind of sad. Brett walked out with jorts and a Bret Hart T-shirt.
But like, if maybe the swerve had taken place during the course of the match, it would have generated a little more excitement. Have that lead directly to the finish of the match. Have it last all of 5 minutes. Bret beats up Vince a little bit. Maybe they both are. I guess Bret really can't take a bump, so it'd be difficult. Somehow they both end up on the outside. It seems like the Hart family is going to do something to Bret. Instead, they turn their eyes on Vince, toss Vince, beat him up a bit, toss Vince back in the ring. Bret rolls in, sharpshooter, Vince taps, match over. Something quick.
5 minutes.
That builds to a quick crescendo. Vince taps, something the crowd can get behind. On with our WrestleMania.
But it might have been a situation where you just thought, well, more Vince is better.
Maybe.
But no, I agree with you totally. Like there definitely could have been some ways to do it better. It's just really difficult with a guy who,
maybe in Vince's,
he takes it. If he falls, he might die.
Maybe in Vince's mind, he thought it would be fulfilling for the crowd to not only see Vince lose and to get humiliated, get outsmarted by Bret, but also to literally see the get beat up with a crowbar in the chair. Maybe he thought that'd be a visceral experience for the crowd. Didn't turn out that way because no one really seemed to get into it.
There are a couple of notes about this, and one of them really illustrates where Bret was coming from. And I mean, in that degree, you really have to appreciate it. I mean,
definitely.
Once you go through something he's gone through, I think this match did come off as fairly therapeutic for him.
Definitely.
And so that's really good. There's two things. Number one, there was on one of those aforementioned wrestling website, wrestling message boards, wrestlingforum.com, there was a user named Jordan Rose. This is anecdotal, take it for what you will. He says, I was at a Q&A with Bret Hart this year, and he talked about how massively important that match was to him because he was sat in hospital in 2003 having lost control of the entire left side of his body. He couldn't even imagine being able to walk again, much less walk out and work at WrestleMania. He became very emotional. Bret Hart on his own Facebook page at the time, which I read like a bunch of these like sort of in sequence, and his whole experience WrestleMania weekend seemed like a very positive therapeutic thing. He posted this. He said, I can't begin to describe the flood of excitement that pulsated through me at seeing the sight of that massive stadium filled with fans. Although I know it was far from my greatest performance, I can proudly say it was one of my most glorious victories I've ever had. Once upon a time in my wheelchair, after suffering my stroke in 2002, thinking how impossible it was to even conceive of such a moment makes me as proud as ever of anything I ever did in a ring. It was sweet seeing the entire Hart family play a part in giving Vince McMahon the beating of his lifetime. When I briefly saw Linda afterwards in the hallway, I confessed with a smile that I'd secretly given him a couple of choice chair shots just for her. This drew a burst of laughter and a smile. In truth, I'd like to thank all the McMahons, that includes Triple H, for their kindness, hospitality, and for a fantastic 3-month ride I'll never forget. So it did seem that he was in a positive headspace, which it seems like the guy desperately needed at the time. So that alone is probably worth it. But he obviously had a lot of other much greater performances than that. Moving on, number 4. Roddy Piper versus Mr. T boxing match.
At WrestleMania 2, this is like a precursor to Brawl for All, except this is most decidedly supposed to be a shoot boxing match, which
it obviously wasn't.
It's a terrible idea. To begin with.
Well, this was a fake boxing.
Sorry,
match.
I meant to say work boxing match. Apologies.
I mean, we're supposed to think it's a shoot, but it's obviously a work.
My apologies. I meant to say work. Yes. But it's not good.
So obviously the year before they they main evented with Hulk Hogan and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Everybody calls him Orndorff
except Piper.
Except
it's only Hogan and Mr. T that call him Paul Orndorff.
Well, that's everybody I need. It cracks me up because I think there's been one other time, I forget who it was, but you and I are sitting here watching a shoot interview and he says Orndorff, and it makes me laugh because yes, it's Orndorff. But everybody that I've seen seems to call him Orndorff.
Yeah, it's funny.
Anyways, they were in the main event the prior year. Of course, this feud continued on
to WrestleMania 2.
WrestleMania 2.
That was a great idea to have a boxing match.
And they were going to go all, 10 rounds? 12 rounds?
Maybe 5.
No. When they started, it was like, I swear Joan Rivers said something like, you're about to get 10 rounds of boxing action.
Could be.
Because it went to the 4th, right?
Miss Piper body slam Mr. T, so Mr. T won by disqualification.
Yeah, it was long. Like these were legitimate
3-minute rounds.
Yeah, they were 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
And then a 1-minute sit down or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then back to it of just fake boxing.
Yeah.
It's like obviously fake boxing.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be, it's funny because we had heard, we had read and heard that there was legitimate heat between Piper and Mr. T.
Yeah, something about how Piper didn't think Mr. T respected the business.
Yeah. But then when you go back, so we watched a video of Mr. T talking about Piper after he passed. TMZ got his reaction. And then we watched a 2015, something with Piper where the guy asked him, what are your thoughts on Mr. T? Where there was supposed to still be some real blood between the two of them. And Piper seemed completely still in kayfabe. He seemed in character.
Well, he seemed like he's about to laugh the entire time.
Yeah, and he was talking about these stories about Mr. T that seem wildly out of character from the Mr. T that we sort of... Mr. T legitimately seems like one of the coolest dudes. Like, he always comes off as the most humble... Like, watch his Hall of Fame ceremony. They had to get him off the stage because he was talking about how much he loved his mom too much. Mm-hmm. And so... And then when Mr. T talks about him, he was like, yeah, that was all hype. Because in the wrestling business, you got to keep it. And then he starts talking about Piper and the kind of opponent he was, but it was all very in character stuff.
Yeah.
Like talking about respecting the business.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that these two guys,
at least from Mr. T's standpoint, it could be he'd be speaking kind of in kayfabe, but he can also just speaking diplomatically too.
Oh yeah, no. Look, if the guy had died, I doubt for a second that he would run him down after he died.
Yeah.
That being said, everything that I've seen, I honestly kind of feel like these guys just kept in character for the number one. Piper seemed like the kind of guy who is permanently in character, anyways.
Well, I mean, it seemed like Roddy Piper was just him.
It was, exactly. And I don't know. I kind of feel like in my heart, I just want to believe there was no bad blood here. That's what I want to believe. So that's what I want to believe.
All right.
And then if you watch this match, there was a couple times when Piper kind of tags T. Mm-hmm. And it's like, T probably could have annihilated Piper.
Probably.
If he was really into like, oh, I don't really care about this. I don't respect the business. I don't know. I kind of feel like he could have done whatever he wanted out there.
Maybe.
So, but that being said, it's a very long fake boxing match.
And it's not enjoyable in the least.
No, it is not.
It's really bad.
It's not.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Like much of WrestleMania 2 is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. It's got WrestleMania 2 has like an old school house show feel to it.
It does. With some minor celebrities as well.
Joan Rivers, G. Gordon Liddy.
How is that guy still not in jail?
It was like just moments before that Watergate happened.
It was a few years before, yeah.
Yeah, because this is what, 80? Oh, this is 86.
So it's almost a decade. It's more than a decade.
God, why does it feel like it's 82? Like when you watch it,
I know.
It looks like something from 1982.
It really does.
They really, very quickly, they really stepped up their production game.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like by WrestleMania 3, it looked a lot better.
Yeah, it did.
It looked a lot less
house showy,
yeah. New York house show.
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Ugh, we got to talk about this now.
Ugh.
Number 3.
3.
Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole, WrestleMania 27.
So I looked at the length of each match. This was the third longest match on the card.
This was long, dude.
The main event was 15 minutes. Taker Triple H was almost 30. Sorry, the fourth longest. Orton CM Punk was about 15 seconds short of 15 minutes. This was almost 14 minutes long.
Here's the thing about this one, though, is that the length of time of the actual match might have been that, but the stuff that preceded it, and what came afterwards, was obnoxiously long.
Ever thought that having a heel play-by-play man was a good idea? It's not. I understand that a heel analyst is a common trope of professional wrestling, and it makes sense. There's balance in the commentary team where you have the play-by-play guy calling it right down the middle, and you have the heel the analyst adding a different perspective.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah,
but at no point should your play-by-play guy be a heel. It doesn't work.
It's funny because I remember watching Raws prior to this, and he completely railroaded weekly television with this storyline because one of the main voices you hear is, so here's the setup here. So at 1 hour 37 minutes, I believe, is when it's sort of, or are they going to do the Hall? Oh, they're doing the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame first,
okay.
yeah.
Let's see here.
But this is back when
it completely railroaded.
Yeah, Michael Cole had his own booth.
Yeah.
He was doing commentary from. Jack Swagger was involved in all this. It was just bad.
It was simply annoying.
Bad.
So we get the recap around the 141 mark. And then, let's see here. Go here. Okay, there's Stone Cold. He's about to leave at the 2. Yes, this took up about a half hour of time.
Yeah, but really, it just
because
went on
now
forever.
Austin leaves at 2:11. Oh, Lawler's still there. We get more replays. Lawler sits down, and we're kind of done by 2:12. So 141.
Good half hour
to
Or, sorry,
2:12.
A bad half hour.
Yeah, a half hour of our time
ever
was dedicated to that.
And the match sucked because Michael Cole's not a wrestler.
Right. Yeah, it was just
even with Jack Swagger involved.
It was just a terrible match.
And then was it the Raw after this or a couple weeks later that John Cena humiliated Michael Cole?
Oh, didn't we see his butt or something?
He poured barbecue sauce all over him.
Yeah. Did he take down his pants too?
I think he might.
Maybe he did that. I don't. Or he peed himself. I don't know.
It was horrible. It was all bad.
It was all really bad. The takeaway is it was really bad. This actually could be the worst, like literally the worst match on this list. I think. This is worse than even our top 2, but our top 2 are like bigger matches with actual wrestlers.
Historically bad, yeah.
I mean, like number 2, the one we're about to get to, those are legitimate wrestlers that should be doing like good work in there.
It should be that one should be a good match.
And then even number 1 is like a really bad match, but one of them is a good wrestler.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on and find out what they are.
Yeah.
Number 2.
2.
Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, neither of them wanted to be there. They were both leaving WWE after this match, and it just really shows. The crowd found out that they were both leaving, crapped all over it, called them sellouts.
Yeah. People pop most for Stone Cold, which they will anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I guess they probably called Brock a sellout since he was the one that was leaving for football. Goldberg just didn't want to do it anymore.
But it's funny because you can like if you load this match up on the network and they just sort of skim through it, there's never any action happening.
No,
it's all rest holds and like lockups and pacing around each other.
Didn't want to be there.
What a bummer! Like that's just a total bummer. I don't know what that deal was. It's funny because you can literally contrast that with the exact same program, but like later. And it's funny because
a decade later, yeah, and it's actually relatively entertaining.
In the build-up video, in the video recap of the preceding what was going on. There's actually some pretty fun stuff. Like
that Brock promo where he was on his knees begging God to give him Goldberg at
that was
WrestleMania.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
that was really good stuff.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go do football. I can't really mess myself up. I don't want to get injured."
Well, it was like 6 days before Mania that Brock apparently told the SmackDown locker room that he was out the door.
Yeah.
Turned down a huge contract.
Yeah,
at the time I'm guessing a huge contract. It's the total term or the money of the contract was less than he makes annually now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If reports are true.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just probably more so than any match on this list. This one is the most disappointing because we eventually saw about 10, 12 years later what these two guys could do in the ring when they're invested in it, and it was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bummer we didn't get to see it then.
It is a drag. But yeah, people crapped all over this match.
Oh yeah.
All right, here we go. It's time for the worst match in WrestleMania history. Number 1. Undertaker versus Giant Gonzales.
Oh man,
look at it's a naked, very ripped dude, but he's naked.
But it's airbrush, man. That's not real muscle.
What? Look,
that's not real hair
either. Are you
either.
looking at what I'm looking at? Look at what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I see airbrush muscle.
That is why would they airbrush a nipple on it?
Well, because if he's naked, they're gonna do the airbrush a nipple on it.
Here's the thing, though. That's a really good airbrush job.
It is really good
because that hair looks real.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of. If you blur your eyes.
I mean, I'm at an angle here, and it looks pretty decent.
Yeah. And then he's got bush.
Yeah. He's got a thick bush covering up front area and butt crack.
I can't get over that they were like, man, we got this Giant Gonzales guy. Can he move? No. Can he wrestle?
No. Can he sell? No.
He's like 8 feet tall. He looks great. Okay, cool. Well, let's take his look and let's make it stupid by making him a naked guy.
A naked hairy guy.
A naked hairy guy.
Because he's a giant.
And the implication is he's got thick bush and a micro.
Yeah.
So that you can't even see the mushroom tip.
Yeah.
That's the law. That's kayfabe.
It really is.
Kayfabe's naked, right?
Yeah. With a micro, yes.
With a micro.
And a really thick thicket of hair
Yeah.
up his butt crack.
Here's what I want people to think when they look at Giant Gonzales.
Hairy micro-penis wrestler.
Gym locker room, like where giants go.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to imagine that you're in a giant, like a gym specifically for giants.
Yes.
You're in the locker room, and that one guy, comes out of the shower and just doesn't care, takes off his towel. He's got a micro.
He's got the first knuckle on the thumb.
Yeah, but you can't see that.
Because of the thicket of hair.
Because it's so thick.
Yes. Yes.
And the match is crap.
It is crap.
Awful.
It's awful.
So bad.
It's horrendous. Because Giant Gonzales can't do anything.
No, he literally
He
can't.
can't throw a decent looking punch.
Yeah.
He can't sell. Him selling is, it's like the Talking Heads video for Once in a Lifetime. Just does this all the time. That's him selling.
That's an obscure reference.
So it's a bad match. There's chloroform involved, which according to Bruce Pritchard was just like something commentary came up with.
Oh yeah.
Bruce
Yeah.
Pritchard was asked when did Bruce realize it was a bad idea signing Giant Gonzales, and he said when the bell rung.
Yeah.
As soon as they saw him in action.
Yeah.
This is a terrible mistake.
That's one thing about like listening to that Pritchard podcast that's just absolutely stunning to me. It's just how loosey-goosey they used to play things with like WrestleMania.
Oh, I know.
With anything, really. It's like Vince calls up Undertaker and says, "Are you ready to be the Undertaker?" This is from the Undertaker shoot interview. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm here. I didn't know they were going to do this." And then how do they debut Undertaker? Like against Hulk Hogan?
Kind of, yeah.
Like basically.
Yeah.
Like was it the first month? Undertaker debuted at Survivor Series, right?
That was his official debut, yeah, but he'd appeared on some house shows, I think one TV tape
Right.
before when he was Kane the Undertaker.
Right. And then he like very quickly had a title match against Hogan, right?
It was the following year he won the belt from Hogan.
That's crazy. Like, hey, let's just bring in this new guy.
But it's funny,
Put
is
him
like
up there.
they do that. They have the title match against Hogan, which he wins, but then the title picture is in dispute somewhat. But according to Pritchard, Vince didn't see Undertaker as a champion.
Weird. That is weird, yeah. That is really weird.
Is this all like a long succession of heels that Vince brought in to take on Hogan just to build up Hogan?
It just makes me laugh that like they'll bring people in and just give them these ridiculous pushes. Like Sid had a crazy push when he first was.
They brought him in to replace Hogan.
Yeah. So they'll bring those guys in, but then when it comes to like a guy that's actually a really good company guy, wrestler, Bret Hart, it's like scratching and clawing.
I take him for granted because he's a good wrestler. He's a good company guy.
Exactly.
I mean, Sid was green.
Oh, yeah.
Green.
Yeah.
When they brought him in.
Yeah.
And it shows. You watched that Hogan match.
Oh, boy.
In no way was he ready to be face of the company.
Remember that period a couple of years ago when Michael Cole was jacked?
Yeah, man.
When he was
I
trim?
wonder if he's still jacked.
He's not.
Oh,
like
all right.
he hides it. I noticed it. I just noticed it because I was like, man, his face is looking kind of puffy. And I'm not one to talk. Like I'm a fat bastard too. But I just remember being very impressed by his
There's
like
pictures of him where he was jacked.
And then he was interviewing somebody. Oh, it was in like a NXT backstage thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to somebody. I forgot who it was. Oh God, it's on the tip of my friggin' tongue. I forget. And it was more of a shoot. Michael Cole. He had like a polo shirt on, and you can see he's ballooned a bit again.
He's got a tummy again.
Keeping weight's off difficult though, man.
It is. It really is.
But I was inspired when I saw him all jacked. Like
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, oh man,
He looked jacked.
yeah, he was great. Anyways, so yeah, Taker versus Gonzales, crap match, DQ finish, terrible stuff.
Yeah, they take Taker to the back in a stretcher. He comes back out and beats up Giant Gonzales. They thought this match was so great they had a rematch.
That's so weird that they saw this and were like, let's do it again.
It's one of the few times where they had to probably a story in mind. They're like, well, we kind of have to finish this one.
I don't know if I watched that match,
I have not.
or if I have, it's been a while. So I don't know if it's as bad as this, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
It was shorter, I think.
Yeah. Anyways, that's it for Countout. Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate. Oh, one thing I'll do that on Monday. New patrons on Monday. It's already the end of the show. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're listening to this in the audio realm, please leave us a rating, review, or comment. It really goes a long way.
Yes.
Hit that subscribe button, the notify bell on YouTube, and take a look at our Patreon at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. We got a bunch of rewards there up for offer all the way from $1, which goes a long way.
Yep.
All the way up to the $50 mark where you get a bounty, man. You get a T-shirt, you get a comic book,
You get so
stickers.
much.
If you're a fan of Going In Raw and you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Be a part of Going In Raw today at patreon.com/Steve and Larson. Starting at $1 a month, you can enjoy Going In Raw ad-free, gain access to the daily 30-minute Going In Raw post-show, exclusive merchandise, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description.